In a quiet and forgotten village, far from the eyes of the modern world, lived a young girl named Alia. Her world was small, made of dust, narrow lanes, crumbling huts, and people hardened by life. Yet her heart remained pure, untainted by the struggles that defined her surroundings. She was no stranger to hunger, no stranger to pain, but she wore her hardships like a crown, walking with dignity and grace, helping others with the little she had every morning. Before the sun kissed the fields, she would carry an old metal pot to the well, a half-hour walk each way, and then return to cook a simple meal for her mother, who had been ill for years and could not leave the bed. Alaya would then gather firewood clean the hut, help elderly neighbors, and do small chores around the village for pennies, just enough to buy a handful of rice and some medicines for her mother. Everyone in the village knew her as the girl with the golden heart, the one who never said no, the one who offered a smile even when her stomach was empty. But beyond the village, no one knew her name, and no one ever thought they would. A girl like Aaliyah was born in silence, lived in silence, and was expected to fade into silence one misty morning as Aaliyah was walking to the forest with her bundle of rope and an old basket. She heard the sputtering sound of a car engine coughing in the distance. She followed the sound and found a shining black car sunk deep in the muddy path just outside the village. Inside was a man wearing a crisp suit and dark sunglasses, frustrated and talking angrily on his phone. When he saw her, he waved dismissively, as if expecting no help from a girl like her. But Aaliyah approached anyway, asked if he was stuck, and offered to help. He looked at her ragged clothes, her muddy feet, and laughed softly, saying, "What could you possibly do?" Aaliyah did not respond with anger. She simply walked to the back of the car, studied the situation, and began to gather rocks, broken branches, and dry leaves from the forest floor. She placed them carefully around the wheels, then asked the man to start the engine again. He watched unsure, but did as she asked. Slowly, the car began to move. The tires gained grip, and within minutes it rolled out of the mud. Aaliyah clapped her hands with joy and smiled. The man got out, looked at her in disbelief, and asked her why she had helped. Her answer was simple: "Because you needed help." He offered her money, but Aaliyah stepped back and said, "I do not help for money. Just promise me you will help someone else when they need it." The man was silent for a moment, then nodded. He introduced himself as Aryan and said, "Thank you," before driving off, leaving Alaya to return to her chores, unaware that her life was about to change forever. Aryan was not just a businessman. He was one of the most powerful and wealthy people in the country, owner of a global company known for its success and its reach. He had traveled the world, spoken at great conferences, and shaken hands with presidents and prime ministers. But never had he met anyone like Alaya. Her selflessness haunted him. Her eyes, her voice, her strength and calm, in that brief moment, had made a mark on his soul. He could not forget a week past, but Aryan could not focus on work. He canceled meetings, changed schedules, and returned to the village with his team. This time he asked everyone where to find the girl who had helped him. At first, people were suspicious, but when they saw who he was, they led him to Aliyah's tiny hut, where she sat grinding wheat on a stone. Her mother lying on a cot nearby, Aryan entered and introduced himself properly, then told Aaliyah he had come to fulfill a promise, not just to her, but to himself. He offered to take care of her mother, provide her with the best treatment, and give Aliyah a chance to study in the city, to live with dignity and pursue her dreams. Aaliyah hesitated. She had never left the village, never slept on a real bed, never seen a school with books and walls painted with colors. But Arian gently insisted, saying, "You changed my life. Let me help you change yours." She finally agreed, and a new chapter began. They moved to the city. Her mother received care from top doctors and slowly began to recover. Aaliyah joined a prestigious school where everything was new and strange, but her determination kept her going. She studied day and night, never forgetting her mother's sacrifices or the promise she had made to always help others. Her teachers were amazed by her wisdom, and her classmates drawn to her humility years past. Aliyah completed her education with top honors, and Arian, who had been watching her growth, with pride invited her to work in his company, not as an employee, but as a partner. He said, "The world needs people like you, honest, brave, and compassionate together." They began transforming the company, launching projects in rural areas, building schools, hospitals, and centers for women and children. Aliyah traveled across the country, meeting those in need, and bringing hope, just as she once did, with a simple act by a muddy road. She became a voice for the voiceless, a symbol of change and strength. Her story spread through newspapers and television channels. People called her the girl with the golden soul. Invitations poured in from around the world. But she never let fame touch her heart. She always said, "I am just a girl who helped someone and was helped in return." Nothing more. Years later, Alia stood on a global stage, receiving an award for humanitarian leadership. But as she spoke, she did not talk about success. She talked about kindness. She told the story of that morning in the mud, of how one act, without expecting anything in return, had changed two lives. And from those two lives, many more. She ended her speech with a message. Let no one tell you that you are too small to make a difference. Even the tiniest spark can light a fire that warms the world. And in that moment, millions listened and felt a change in their hearts, because the poor girl who helped a billionaire had shown the world that the true measure of wealth lies not in what you have, but in what you give.